Welcome back. Palestinian officials say that scores of people have been killed or injured in southern Gaza as a result of pre-dawn strikes carried out by Israel. At least 19 people are reported to have been killed. This happened in Al-Mawasi, which is a vast camp designated as a safe zone, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been seeking shelter. But the Israeli military says that Hamas fighters infiltrated that area and set up a command center. Well, for more on this, I'm joined from Ramallah by Nebal Farsakh, who is a spokesperson for the Palestinian Red Crescent. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. We understand that just in the last couple of hours, there's actually been a raid by the Israeli security forces on one of your facilities in the West Bank. I just wondered if you could start by just telling us a bit more about what happened there.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. The situation in the West Bank is also escalating during a raid for the Israeli occupation forces and Tulkarem. Israeli forces surrounded the Palestine Red Crescent Emergency Medical Center, stormed the center, and detained two of our staff, were arrested. Two of our EMTs were arrested from inside the EMS center. We just got the news that both of them were released after hours of being detained. Also, our staff were prevented from going out of the EMS center for hours, denying them from providing life-saving emergency medical services to the wounded and sick in the area. Today, also one of our EMTs in Tulkarem refugee camp was injured with live ammunition while attending to one of the wounded people inside the camp.
And I'm just wondering, did the Israeli security forces give any reasons, or have they given any explanation as to why they carried out that particular raid on your facility?
Unfortunately, there is no reasons given to the Palestine Red Crescent. Since the beginning of the war on Gaza, we have documented an alarming number of violations against PRCS teams, including more than 750 different violations against the staff itself, against our ambulances, and even attacks on patients and wounded while being inside our ambulances.
Okay, well, let's turn our attention now to Gaza, and I just want to ask what your understanding is with regards to the scale of casualties following the pre-dawn attacks on the Al-Mawasi camp today.
The Palestine Red Crescent responded to the overnight airstrike in an area that is designated as a humanitarian zone. A series of explosions that targeted the area at the same time caused significant damage and deaths. Our teams responded to this attack and evacuated the wounded to hospitals, to two field hospitals in Rafah, as well as to Nasser Medical Hospital. Many are still trapped under the rubble and sand up to this moment. They could not be recovered yet. And unfortunately, this attack again showed that there is no safe places for civilians in Gaza. Even the so-called humanitarian zones do not provide protection for civilians. Seeing this happen again is just devastating. The Palestine Red Crescent calls again on the international community to take serious steps to protect civilians. Humanitarians, civilians, and medical personnel are not targets. They should be respected and protected under the international humanitarian law.
But to be fair, and just reading the reports, and you probably know more than me being closer to the scene than I am, but the Israeli authorities say that the Al-Mawasi camp was actually infiltrated and was being used by Hamas as a command center. I mean, does that sound to you like a plausible explanation?
The international humanitarian law is clear. Civilians should not be targeted under any circumstances. And what we see is repeated attacks on civilians while being in their homes and tents and hospitals and even everywhere. What I can say is these are only kind of justification to justify this continuous violations against the international humanitarian law. And we insist on the importance of protecting civilians. People who were killed yesterday. They were sleeping at that time when the attack happened. So every day we continue to see more suffering for the civilians in Gaza while being targeted everywhere. No safe places have been left to them, and everywhere is not safe. What happened in Gaza is even unimaginable, not only for civilians, but also for medical personnel, for hospitals, which was also attacked repeatedly.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you actually about the state of the healthcare system in Gaza, because for months we talked about the imminent collapse of that healthcare system. And as we enter the 12th month of this war, I'm just wondering at this stage what medical care, if any, is available for people there in Gaza?
Unfortunately, after almost 11 months of the continuous war on Gaza, most hospitals were taken out of service, either due to direct attack or because running out of medications, medical supplies, and fuel. We have warned yesterday that the PRCS medical services might stop completely in Gaza City and the north because of fuel depletion, as up to this moment, fuel is not getting into Gaza City and the north to support the work of medical health providers. Two other hospitals as well announced that they might completely shut down the services at these hospitals because of fuel depletion. Unfortunately, even those few hospitals who are still operational across all of the Gaza Strip, they are partially functional. None of Gaza hospitals are fully functional. And those hospitals are overcrowded of medication, of patients. They run out of medications and medical supplies. And even the medical personnel are truly overstretched because being worked 24 hours for the past 11 months.
Yeah, I mean, you paint a really dire picture of the situation there. I mean, it sounds truly horrendous. And I was reading yesterday that the new school year began in Gaza, just as a new school year begins all around the world at about this time of year. But with 90% of public schools having been destroyed there in Gaza, the buildings I'm talking about, I mean, is it fair to say, do you think there's pretty much zero prospect for kids there in Gaza having any kind of education, at least during these last 11, 12 months?
Unfortunately, this is the situation for the past 11 months. Children have been denied all the rights, not only the rights to education because of the destroying of schools. Also, some schools turned out to shelters for the internally displaced families who don't have any other places to go to. So basically, children are denied access to all rights. The right to live, the right to have shelter, the right to have food, clean water. Unfortunately, the children in Gaza are enduring an unimaginable situation every single day because of the continuous war on Gaza. That is, I don't think any human being in the world can even handle or endure such situation.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. Nebal Farsakh, spokesperson for the Palestinian Red Crescent in Ramallah. Thank you very much indeed.